Good morning. This is David Bennett, and this is Bitcoin And, a podcast where I try to find the edge effect between the worlds of Bitcoin, gaming, permaculture, podcasting, and education to gain a better understanding of all. Edge effect is a concept from ecology describing a greater diversity of life where the edges of two systems overlap. While species from either system can be found at the edge, it is important to note there are species in the overlap that exist in neither system, and that is what I seek to uncover. So join me in discovering the variety of things being created as Bitcoin rubs up against other systems.
It is 10:11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's damn near again the end of October. It's October the 30th, 2024, and this is episode 983 of Bitcoin, and I got a lot to cover. Let's get right on into it. I want to start this show off with Arceris. Or Arceris. I think it's Arceris, but yeah, he has written a couple of things for Bitcoin Magazine at various times, and he wrote this on StackerNews, and I think that this may be something we might want to consider. It's about politics, Bitcoin, and you. He doesn't really have a title for it, but I think we should do this one. So let's start. I believe that the idea that we can transcend politics to be naive, if not outright deceptive. To say that we Bitcoiners should keep our distance from politics misunderstands both the nature of Bitcoin and the nature of politics itself. Politics, in its essence, is not merely the province of governments and voting booths. It is the synthesis of everything uniquely human: rationality, aggression, diplomacy, calculation, violence, intelligence, duplicity, language, and everything else that drives human interaction. While many Bitcoiners see politics through a lord/serf lens, this is just one expression of it, admittedly one which has been dominant for most civilizations throughout history. Politics is not a machine that we can avoid. It is the language we speak, the strategy we wield, and the consequences we live. The concept of escaping it is a comforting myth held by those who fail to recognize its pervasive influence, or, more troubling, by those who hope to wield it uncontested against those who claim exemption. And furthermore, Bitcoin itself is not just embedded within the landscape of political expressions. I believe it is a crystallization of it. Every feature of Bitcoin, its protocol, its cryptographic foundations, its consensus mechanisms, reflects a calculated assertion of power and autonomy. Bitcoin's cryptographic robustness is rationality made tangible. Its proof of work is a bold display of aggression against the unchecked excesses of the fiat empire. Its consensus protocol is diplomacy enacted through decentralized consensus. Even the pseudonymity of Satoshi Nakamoto is a political act, hearkening back to the Federalist Papers and revealing again how anonymity can protect revolutionary ideas. Each aspect of Bitcoin represents defiance towards centralized systems, a rallying cry for autonomy, and a meticulously calculated plan for reshaping power. Yet, Bitcoin's political essence goes deeper. Its very presence on the world stage is a strategic move to alter the rules of engagement, forcing a recalibration of political powers on a global scale. Bitcoin challenges and refines political expression by limiting certain forms of control, censorship, seizure, or inflation manipulation, while expanding others like financial self-sovereignty, borderless transactions, and uncensorable asset ownership. In this way, Bitcoin isn't some outside force which tolerates or coexists alongside the political sphere. It reshapes it from within. As long as humans desire autonomy, stability, and freedom, Bitcoin will remain relevant because it speaks to those desires through actions, not words. Bitcoin isn't an escape from politics, but a tool for reshaping it. Every transaction is an assertion of self-sovereignty. Every mind block a testament to decentralization's resilience. It reveals that political power does not always need a centralized authority. Sometimes it resides within a protocol, a network, a language, and a community willing to hold the line. Bitcoin has built a political structure of its own, one in which rules are enforced not by force, but by consensus, not by coercion, but by code. Far from being passive bystanders, Bitcoin and Bitcoiners are active participants in the political sphere and carry with them a message that is as bold and relentless as its protocol. The future of power belongs to those who claim it, secure it, and hold it in trust for the individuals it empowers. And it is now our turn to take the lead. Stephen Levera references the statement, quote, "You may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you." Clausewitz famously commented that, quote, "War is not merely a political act, but a real political instrument, a continuation of political intercourse, a carrying out of the same by other means," end quote. Bitcoiners like to point out that Bitcoin doesn't care what you think. These statements all describe aspects of a unitary process which emerges from human nature. Bitcoiners must engage with the traditional political machine, both to protect and extend Bitcoin itself and to ensure the most positive synthesis of the two systems, because Bitcoin is itself just politics by another means. This is a really powerful piece. And you may not agree with it. You may wholeheartedly agree with it. You may not know what it is that I just talked about. It's okay. It is okay. It is my humble opinion that our source really did capture a real fundamental truth. Politics isn't something that we created as humans. It's not a structure that we built because, I don't know, God told us to. That has nothing to do with that. It was bound to happen. It's part of the human nature. Hell, there's even politics in wolf packs. There's the alpha male, there's a beta. That's like it's just the way it works. Politics are everywhere. It's in the animal kingdom. I could probably, if I really dug deep into all the literature that I have about mycology and soil, there's a politic there. It just exists. It's part of the universe. It's not just human nature that politics is part of. It's something that we can't put our finger on, but it's present and it causes problems. Arthur suggests here that Bitcoin reshapes the way politics is. I have a tendency to agree, and you know me. I hate politics. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to take part in politics. I want to be left alone in my little cave in my hermitage out in the woods so that I can think and feel for free. But, politics is still interested in me no matter where the fuck I am. I think that if we just get rich enough, if Bitcoin just gets high enough, if it hits that magical number in USD value for you, then you won't ever have to engage with politics ever again. And Arthurus is telling you that that's wrong. It's wrong. I don't think he's saying that you have to take part in politics, although there is a suggestion here that we should. I think that what he's saying is that it really boils down to that you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. And there is no escaping it, no matter what the price of Bitcoin is. And if we realign our thoughts and say, okay, maybe I shouldn't absolutely refuse to engage with any kind of political machine whatsoever under any circumstances. Instead of saying that, maybe we should start asking ourselves the question, how can I use what I know to reshape the political machine in even the smallest way into something that is not evil, that is not oppressive, that is not authoritarian, that's not totalitarian, that's not communist, that's not Marxist, hell, if you want to say it, it's not capitalist. The human spirit has been squelched for decades. Politics is one of those items that is used to squelch the human spirit. It's only one of them. There are others. But it doesn't matter. I could name them, but it's not going to matter, because what we really need to look at is, where could we be as a species? What could we have built already had it not been for X, Y, and Z? We could ask ourselves that, but is it better to ask ourselves, I see the future for myself. I have the idea in my head to do this other X, Y, and Z, and I think it would be good. How can I affect that? How do I begin that? And I have zero answer for you, because I don't know you. I don't know what your history is. I know what I can do for me, and even then, it's fucking hard. It's hard. I've been doing this show for 6 years, and I keep thinking, just one more show, and something will magically unlock, and I'll see that light at the end of the tunnel. But that's not the way that I should be thinking. It's, how do I kick the wall down? How do I punch through the blackness to let in the sunlight? For me, we've allowed politics to become the black hole, and that we all feel that we're enveloped by it. How do we punch through the black hole? Again, I can't answer that for you, and I can barely answer it for myself. But I know it needs to be done. Bhutan. Let's do a little bit of an expose on Bhutan, shall we? I got a couple of things here, and I got to make deadly sure that I keep this show to an hour, because I got to go pick somebody up. But let's start here. Bhutan, another country using Bitcoin to escape poverty, which is political. If you don't think that poverty is political, then you haven't been paying attention. But Alex Frankenberg from Bitcoin Magazine is going to tell us all about it. Having invested in startups for over 20 years, I have a deep respect for entrepreneurs trying to build a company. It's so difficult. And more often than not, it doesn't work out. Developing a whole country, of course, is much more difficult. Many leaders in developing countries don't even try. They use their short time and power for their own benefit. But some leaders give their best shot. Nayib Bukele made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. Since then, the country has shown a remarkable development on many levels. The Bitcoin engagement in Bhutan has been rumored for a while. A few weeks ago, we learned about mining operations in Bhutan, leading to a significant Bitcoin stack of around 13,000 Bitcoin, and that's a lot. Bhutan is leading the world with a Bitcoin stack worth around 30% of its gross domestic product. Per capita, every Bhutanese indirectly holds almost 0.02 Bitcoin, and at current prices, 8 times the average monthly income. All of the Bitcoin mining is done with 100% clean and renewable energy hydropower. Bhutan is the only CO2 negative country in the world, and at the same time has the largest Bitcoin stack in relation to its size. That gets Bhutan worldwide attention, and having traveled 6 days through this truly beautiful country, then attending the Bhutan Innovation Forum and meeting so many great people, including His and Her Majesties, I learned a lot about Bhutan, mindfulness, their development strategy, and the role Bitcoin is playing. While traveling, I happened to see 2 Bitcoin mining sites. Both were fairly large. Congratulating Her Majesty Queen Ashi Shiring Yangdan, sorry if I butchered it, on their Bitcoin strategy, she smiled and offered to introduce me to His Majesty there's no way. I can't pronounce it. I am so sorry, Mr. Majesty, but he's the 5th king. We'll just say that. During a 15-minute conversation with him, he quickly stated, huddle, huddle, huddle. He discovered Bitcoin around 2011, and since 2019, Bhutan has been mining Bitcoin. In 2008, when His Majesty became the leader of Bhutan at the age of 28, and several times after, he clearly stated his mission, quote, as king, I have pledged my life and service for the well-being of our country and people, end quote. His Majesty has been working hard for 16 years to honestly do that. And it's quite a challenge. The economy is running a deficit, dollars are scarce, Bhutan is highly independent on India, a neighbor, who in 1975 made Sikkim, a neighboring kingdom, the 16th Indian state. But India is also helping, building roads, hydropower plants, and delivering almost all of the Bhutanese imports. The Indian rupee and the Bhutanese ngultrum, sorry, the way I can pronounce it, are linked to each other. 70% of the Bhutanese economy is based on agriculture. Cost of living compared to average income is high. Many young people are emigrating to Australia or Canada for better income opportunities. We have heard about domestic violence and alcohol issues contradicting the notion of the Bhutanese being the happiest people in the world. Like El Salvador, Bitcoin is not the silver bullet. It's part of a bigger plan of innovation and modernization. His Majesty's biggest initiative is building a new center for entrepreneurs, technology, and mindfulness called the Gelafu Mindfulness City, a multi-billion-dollar project in southern Bhutan. It involves attracting a lot of foreign investments and talent. The other big initiative is Bitcoin. Building on the most significant strength of Bhutan, cheap, environmentally friendly hydropower, also its main export to India, the kingdom has stacked at least 13,000 Bitcoin and maybe more. Expecting a significant value appreciation, they are for the most part simply holding. Only a little is sold. Bitcoin is about wealth creation. With the Bitcoin bull run about to happen, in this cycle, Bhutan's Bitcoin stack could exceed its GDP and even foreign debt. Bitcoin benefits exceed pure value creation. They call Bitcoin the energy battery. In winter, when there is a lot less rain and India uses less energy, Bhutan can use Bitcoin to import some electricity from India. Bitcoin gives Bhutan access to hard currency like the US dollar or the euro. Selling and importing more or less of everything to and from India, Bhutan is notoriously short of foreign currencies. Bitcoin mining creates technical skills. The Bhutanese are capable of running and repairing the mining rigs themselves. Bhutan easily can become a worldwide competence center for clean Bitcoin mining. The newly acquired skills can be expanded to other technical areas. For example, Bhutan implemented a digital national ID card on the, God forbid, the Polygon blockchain. Oh, shit. Using a wallet, the Bhutanese have access to many government services. Around 20% of Bhutanese have signed up for it. Know-how around Bitcoin and general IT can be the basis for attracting foreign tech investors and startups. Strategically, Bitcoin creates some independence from its strong and still benevolent neighbor, India. China is not much of an issue for Bhutan. His Majesty builds the Bitcoin strategy on the few but distant assets of Bhutan, such as cheap energy, very good English skills, a world-leading image of mindfulness and harmony with nature, the capability of not only preserving its rich cultural traditions and history. He aims to improve the happiness of his people, including, but not only, its standard of living. Clearly, Bitcoin can be the key element and driver for Bhutan's future. Talking about Bitcoin to government officials in Bhutan, we sensed some shyness, which makes a lot of sense. Bitcoiners don't brag about it. Bhutan still needs a lot of help from developed countries and international organizations. At the conference, I overheard the sentence, quote, "I tried to get him to sell, but he refused. Hodl, hodl, hodl," is what His Majesty told me. For sure, Bitcoin is creating significant benefits for the Bhutanese on top of value creation. And at age 44, after 16 years in power, His Majesty seems to have the long-term vision to develop this beautiful country in the Himalayan mountains and plenty of time to implement it. As we can see around the world, it's a hell of a job. Bitcoin clearly is significantly improving the odds for Bhutan. Okay, that is, again, Alex Frankenberg, who spent some time in Bhutan. And this is, honestly, this is the first piece that tells me more about Bhutan than I have really ever known. I know more about El Salvador, and hell, I knew more about El Salvador than I did about Bhutan before Nayib Bukele came to power, simply because it's on this side of the world. I didn't even realize Bhutan was a thing until I heard that, well, they had been doing Bitcoin mining. And that's embarrassing. That's not really being culturally literate. Certainly doesn't help me with my geography, which my geography skills, along with most Americans, kind of sucks. But we've got one more thing about Bhutan. Now, this goes back to what I was talking about yesterday with the movement of the Bhutanese coins over to Kraken and Binance. So this is out of CoinDesk, written by James Von Straten and Shara Malwa. Bitcoin profit-taking continues as BTC price nears high. Is Bitcoin the next to sell? I don't know. Let's find out. The Bhutan government, which now holds over $900 million worth of Bitcoin, moved a chunk of its holdings to exchanges on Tuesday, according to Arkham Intelligence, sparking speculation that they might sell. Bhutan moved $65 million worth of Bitcoin to crypto exchange Binance late Tuesday, as the largest cryptocurrency neared a lifetime peak of above 73,500, Arkham data shows. Well, BTC has dropped to around 72,400 as of mid-morning in London, according to CoinDesk. The tiny, picturesque Southeast Asian nation emerged as a BTC whale earlier this year after Arkham identified wallets belonging to Bhutan for the first time, making it the second nation after El Salvador to officially hold Bitcoin. The country's Bitcoin holdings represents nearly a third of its gross domestic product, and were gained through mining operations run by state-owned Druk Holdings. Bhutan's investment in digital assets is part of a broader strategy by Druk to diversify revenue streams, with recent wallet activity showing both deposits and withdrawals, including significant transactions with exchanges like Kraken. An email to the department on the Bitcoin movements to exchanges and any related plans did not receive a reply. Well, of course not. Meanwhile, Druk wallets tracked by Arkham show brisk deposit and withdrawal activity in the past few weeks. It has received up to 2 Bitcoin from Foundry, another miner, and other unidentified Bitcoin addresses several times over the past week. Well, is there profit taking? Well, I don't know. Bhutan's BTC movements are part of a broader trend of profit taking among whale as the cryptocurrency price approaches a record high set in March. And as more holders move into profit and look to lock in gains, for God's sakes, their market activity may slow the climb towards the record, CoinDesk research noted earlier this month. And since October the 17th, when the research was published, profit taking has not abated, but it still seems as though a new all-time high is in the cards. Even though realized profit in Bitcoin peaked on October the 8th and has started to slow down, which is a positive development, we are still seeing higher profit taking than the yearly average. As of Tuesday, 99.7% of the circulating supply of Bitcoin was in profit. With $1.5 billion of realized profit taken, most of that has come from larger entities holding at least 100 BTC, according to Glassnode. So there is some profit taking, but this has said nothing about whether or not Bhutan is actually profit taking. We did get a better sense of that in the story before, where every once in a while they do sell a little bit of Bitcoin. It makes complete sense. But what have I been saying? Latin America, Africa, Balkans, Baltics, Far East Europe, and Asia. But not as much China. And there's a lot of small Asian countries, and we should probably be looking at them like we look at, well, I look at the small Asian countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Bhutan, things like that, in the same way that I look at Latin America. And I wish I could tell you why. It's just a gut feeling that I should probably, for whatever reason, group those two. And again, it's probably nothing but a gut feeling, but whatever. You want to talk about life insurance? No, it's not an advertisement. Let's literally talk about life insurance. Bitcoin Life Insurance is offering BTC hodlers new tax advantages. Jonathan D. Young, writing for Cointelegraph. As interest in cryptocurrency has grown over the years, so too have the myriad applications for its use. The OG cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is no exception, as evidenced by 2024's explosion of interest in exchange-traded funds, Bitcoin decentralized finance, and, God forbid, ordinals. God, stop it. Stop. One such new use case for Bitcoin is its role in the life insurance industry, pioneered by Meanwhile, which describes itself as the first and only life insurance company denominated in Bitcoin. On episode 48 of the Agenda podcast, host Jonathan DeYoung and Ray Salmon spoke with Danny Bayer, Meanwhile's Director of Wealth and Asset Management, to discover how Bitcoin-denominated life insurance works and learn about the tax benefits it offers to BTC hodlers. Quote, rather than paying your premiums in dollars or having your life insurance policy grow in terms of dollars, or borrowing against your life insurance policy in dollars, or when you die, your life insurance policy paying out your beneficiaries in dollars. All of that happens in Bitcoin, Bayer said. This means that if a customer has a, let's say, 10 Bitcoin policy, its total value would be around $720,000 at today's prices, but its future value in US dollar terms could be astronomical if Bitcoin continues its climb upwards. Quote, what we've tried to do is take an asset that we view as very low time preference in Bitcoin, meaning that people should own it for a long time, and marry that with one of the lowest time preference savings or investments or planning vehicles, which is whole life insurance. Bayer explained that a Bitcoin-denominated life insurance policy has several tax advantages for long-term holders. Quote, ooh, my cats are starting to get into it, so there may be a cat fight behind me. You'll have to deal with it. I'm sorry. I don't have an office. I have a house. Quote, a primary driver of why people are buying our Bitcoin-denominated whole life insurance policy is not even the insurance piece of passing on Bitcoin when you die. It's the key living benefit, which is the tax-free policy loan. Yes, you can borrow against the value of your policy tax-free. As Bitcoin continues to increase in value alongside a policy, customers have an increasingly larger pool of funds to borrow against. And because everything is denominated in Bitcoin, quote, you borrow Bitcoin against it. And when you do that, it's like you get a new Bitcoin with a new cost basis. It's an interesting idea, honestly. Quote, let's just say you paid your premiums in at $63,000 today, and it's 10, 20, or 30 years from now, and Bitcoin has gone to, let's say, 1 million a coin. You could borrow against the value of your policy, Bitcoin out, and its cost basis, which would be $1 million. So you could sell it immediately and have no capital gains tax on that transaction because you're selling it at cost. End quote. To hear more from Bayer's conversation with the Agenda, including how Meanwhile manages customers' BTC and how payouts work and how the company is regulated, listen to the full episode on Cointelegraph's podcast page. This is honestly an interesting idea. I don't know enough about life insurance and whole life insurance to, recommend this. But one thing that I do know is that I think it's better to have legacy financial instrumentation converted into Bitcoin terms than to come up with something new all the time. We're like, oh, well, we've had life insurance forever. Clearly it's wrong. We need to find something else. Well, maybe not. Life insurance has been around for a long time for a reason. It just has. I mean, it's like you kind of can't deny it. So maybe that means that life insurance itself as an idea is still a good idea. But as long as we keep denominating it in failing currencies, especially the fiat flavor, well, maybe we should do away with that shit, right? Maybe we should think about loans in terms of Bitcoin. I mean, you know me. I'm not saying go take out the third mortgage on your house to go all in Bitcoin. I still think that that's a terrible idea. Because at any given time, shit could go south. We don't know what the hell's on the future. If I were to look at it and say, if God came down from the heavens and said, hey, Dave, look, I'm God. I guarantee you the United States isn't going to make Bitcoin illegal. And honestly, no country is going to make Bitcoin illegal. And I can tell you for the next 5,000 years, electricity will always be flowing on the face of the planet and the Bitcoin network will still be here. Well, then, yeah, if I have no externalities that could possibly fuck up the psychology of the hodlers and have them all sell because the United States made Bitcoin illegal or something like that, if I had that assurance from God himself, then yeah, hell yeah, I'd go take out a mortgage and a second mortgage and a third mortgage, and I'd borrow against my fucking car, and I'd go take payday loans, and I would max out credit cards all the way to the top. Because I know that that's, generally speaking, the only trajectory Bitcoin can have. But it's for the time, it's for the elements and the externalities that happen that we can't know. That I tell you, please, for the love of God, don't put a mortgage on your house that if shit goes south, you're going to lose your house. I don't think that that's good juju, man. Especially if you got a family. But life insurance? This is an interesting concept of borrowing against a life insurance policy with no capital gains tax. It's a very interesting idea. I got to look into this more because one of the things that I have been thinking about, one of the ideas that honestly just won't leave my head, is the thought of how do I build a way to leave wealth to all of the people in my family as I die and as they die and as their children die, but it's never an inheritance. How do I build a structure that is more like a company, and that my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they don't ever take possession of the actual wealth. They just take possession of the control and the direction of that wealth as, like, literally directors of the company, where they can say, we mandate that we're going to take, a distribution this month. All right. But it's not an inheritance wealth because, past $45 million, which is probably going to be a less of a cap if the Harris administration gets in, they could bring it all the way down to $1 million. If you've got like $4 million worth of assets and you leave it to your kids as a straight up inheritance without any kind of other instrumentation to block that, you're going to pay half of that shit to inheritance tax. And people that have like large tracts, like today, why that 45 million what that means to farmers. Like, let's say a poor ass farmer that's barely making it. Why does the $45 million cap mean something to that farmer when he's just barely making it? Because the land that he sits on may be worth $45 million. And if he leaves it to his children as an inheritance, and the Kamala Harris regime or the Marxist or socialists or the rest of the fucking communists have their goddamn way, if he leaves that to his kids, they don't have half of $45 million to pay for that, because they're going to look at the value of the land, not what's in the bank account. They're going to look at all the assets, not just cash, right? They're going to look at jewelry. They're going to look at like bars of gold. If you told somebody and proved that you had Bitcoin, they're going to look at that. They're going to look at land, look at the value of everything. And if that shit hits 45 million or 50 million or whatever the cap is that we have in the United States right now, those kids are going to have to sell half that land, which means that the family farm now shrinks. That's why a poor, broke-ass farmer in the middle of fucking West Texas gives a shit about a $45 million cap. They don't have that in the bank, but they may be sitting on that in the value of the land. Especially in West Texas, where when you buy land, you buy the water rights and the mineral rights and the land, and if it's big enough, the air rights. You own the whole fucking thing from space to the core of the planet. And if you're sitting on top of mineral rights, you could not have 1,000 acres. You might only have 10 acres. And somebody discovers that you own the mineral rights and that you're sitting on like 4, 5, 6 different reservoirs of oil, and that shit could be made to look like $45 million. You die and you pass that shit on as inheritance, yeah, you're hosed, bro. You're hosed. I'm just saying. Man, talking about numbers, let's run some. CNBC Futures and Commodities, oil looking up today. 1.64% to the upside, back up to 68.31 a barrel. Brent North Sea, 1.66% to the upside to 72.30. Natural gas is down 0.5 point. Gasoline up 1.5% to just under $2 a barrel. Gold is the only shiny metal rock doing well today, 0.69% to the upside, just peaked up above $2,800. That's an all-time high for gold. Congratulations, Peter Schiff. And I actually mean that from the bottom of my heart. You've been repressed for so freaking long. It's good to see a smile on your face. Silver is down 1.18%. Platinum is down 3.49%. Copper is down sideways. Palladium is down 5.85%. Yay. And ag is mostly in the green today. Biggest winner is going to be soybeans. Oh, God forbid why. And the biggest loser today is cotton. It's down a full percentage point. Livestock, live cattle is down 0.69%, but lean hogs are up 2 points. Feeder cattle are down almost a full point. Ooh, equity market's not looking all that great today. Dow is down sideways, essentially. It's, 0.01% to the downside. S&P is down 1/5 of a point. NASDAQ is down 0.5 point. The S&P mini is the only thing in the green, 0.07% to the upside. Bitcoin, people taking profit definitely today. We're back down to $71,750, which is about where we were yesterday at this time. That is a $1.42 trillion market cap, and now we can only purchase 25.7 ounces of shiny metal rocks with our one Bitcoin, of which there are 19,775,174.24 of. Yeah, try that, Federal Reserve. Average fees per block are low, 0.05 BTC, taken in fees on average on a per block basis, and there are exactly 100 blocks carrying 200,000 unconfirmed transactions waiting to clear, oh my God, at high priority rates of 3 Satoshis per fee byte. Low priorities, also 3 Satoshis per V byte. We have 752.4 exahashes of hash rate. That is a 1 week rolling average. It looks like they've actually got this they've changed it. Over here on mempool.space, it says hash rate, parentheses, 1W in parentheses. I think that maybe that's new. Maybe it's not. I just noticed it today. So I'm going to assume that a 1 week rolling average of the hash rate now stands at 752.4 exahashes per second, which is still really high, man. I'm really high, brother. God's death with 537 sats on my endowment is huge, says, thank you, sir. No, thank you. Pies of Pleb 420. Thank you, sir. No, thank you. Wartime with 333 says, yes, this means cheers. And then he's got the little 2 clinky glasses together. And then that's it. That's it. Not a lot of support today. If you want to support the show, if you want me to go forward, if you want me to kick through the darkness and get that sunlight, so, sun, different parts of my anatomy, then please donate to the show, man. Show me your love. And if you can't donate to the show, then promote it. Tell your friends about it. Put it on social media. Say, hey, man, this is a great show. You want to find out what the hell happened to Bitcoin today and a couple of other things? Tune into the show. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. BlackRock's IBIT dominates as spot Bitcoin ETFs record $870 million in daily inflows, which is the largest since June. We just keep seeing these accelerations in the ETFs. There's reasons for that, but let's read this. This is from The Block. It is written by Timmy Shin. Hey, Timmy. The 12 spot Bitcoin ETFs in the U.S. reported total daily net inflows of $870 million. And that's a Tuesday. The largest since the first week of June. This was mainly driven by $642.87 million in net inflows into the IBIT ETF. That's not Grayscale. Was it Grayscale? Yeah, it's Grayscale, right? No, BlackRock. Jesus Christ. BlackRock. It's BlackRock. BlackRock Spot Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund recorded a $3.36 billion trading volume daily. A daily trading volume of $3.36 billion, marking its highest volume since March the 14th. Fidelity's FBTC saw $133.86 million in net inflows, which is impressive, while Bitwise logged inflows of $52.5 million. VanEck experienced 16.52 in inflows, and ARK in 21 shares, 12.39 million. The 5 other spot Bitcoin ETFs saw 0 flows. There's not going to be much longer before we don't have 12 Bitcoin ETFs. Some of these are going to drop out of the running. Okay, it's just going to happen, and people will go, see it. Bitcoin failed. The ETFs failed. No, it just means that some people are better at marketing and have a much larger user base than others, and therefore you had network effect, and therefore you got all the shit. Oh well. The total trading volume of the 12 ETFs surged to $4.75 billion. That's billion with a B on Tuesday, which was up from $3 billion on Monday. In a Twitter post, Bloomberg ETF senior analyst Eric Balchunas wrote that the largest trading volume for IBIT was a bit odd, as Bitcoin was up 4% at the time, and typically ETF volume spikes in a downturn or a crisis. Quote, occasionally, though, volume can spike if there is a FOMOing frenzy, said Balchunas. Quote, given the surge in price over the past few days, my guess is it's the latter, which means look for more big inflows this week. We'll see, though, end quote. Bitcoin climbed 2.21% over the past 24 hours to trade at $72,471 after reaching a high of around 73,200. Oh, look, and they actually write a whole bunch of stuff on Ethereum ETFs. I don't care, because Florida is evaluating Bitcoin to include in their pension funds, according to the newsroom from Atlas 21. Florida is evaluating, not evacuating, but evaluating the possibility of including Bitcoin in state pension funds to diversify investments and protect against market volatility. The chief financial officer of Florida, which is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. It's like, is Florida a business or is it a state? Isn't that the comptroller? Whatever. The chief financial officer of Florida, Jimmy Patronis, has proposed the idea of considering Bitcoin as a diversification asset for public pension funds. In a communication addressed to Chris Spencer, the executive director of the Florida State Board of Administration, Patronis suggested evaluating the opportunity to invest a portion of state pension funds into Bitcoin. Patronis proposed the introduction of a, quote, digital currency investment pilot program under the Florida Growth Fund. The program would allow investment of up to 1.5% of the Florida Retirement System Trust Fund. Currently, the SBA manages over 30 funds, including the FRS, the Florida Retirement System, which held assets worth approximately $205 billion as of September 30. Patronis, sorry, I say that name and all I can think of is the Patronis spell from Harry Potter. I know, I'm being a nerd. Patronis emphasized that Bitcoin could serve as a protective hedge against volatility seen in other asset classes. The proposal aligns with Governor Ron DeSantis' efforts, who has proposed the adoption of, God forbid, CBDCs. In the letter, Patronis urged the SBA to prepare a comprehensive report on the feasibility, risks, and potential benefits of allocating a portion only, of pension funds to digital assets. The report must be completed by March the 4th, 2025, ahead of the next state legislative session. If Florida adopts the strategy, it would join other states like Wisconsin and Michigan, which have already introduced similar changes to their pension funds. And last May, the state of Wisconsin Investment Board announced a $163 million investment in Bitcoin ETFs, an allocation of a mere 0.1% of total managed assets in July. The Michigan State Retirement System revealed holdings of 110,000 shares in ARC21 shares ETF, which is equivalent to 0.003% of total managed assets. All right, so check this shit out. If either one of those funds, if these measly, pissant amounts of money that they've stuck into these ETFs, what happens if they actually become substantial whole percentage points of the fund that they came from? What happens? You're going to get severe FOMO by Wisconsin and Michigan and their retirement systems saying, look, dude, we put in like 0.1% of this fund and we did it on this date. Now that value in fiat terms is actually 8%. I could see that happening. It's not impossible. 8% of the fund from whence that money came to buy the Bitcoin. And all of a sudden you go, shit, what would have happened if we had invested 1%? Then they start doing the math. And then they start really, really getting FOMO. I think it could happen. I really do. I'm honest to God, I think it might happen. But then we have to ask ourselves a question. What happens in a bear downturn? Because they always happen. See, you can't... let's see. How can you have your pudding if you can't eat your meat? Or if you don't eat your meat? Sauce for the goose. In other words, the odds are even. All right, so yes, we might see this huge climb. We might see pension funds just go freakishly mad for this stuff. If that 1.1% of Wisconsin's fund ends up being 1% of the value of the fund from whence it came, you will see FOMO from Wisconsin's pension funds. But then in the bear, it goes back down to 0.1% of the value after they've put even more money into it. Right? It's all about balance. It's all about trying to sort through the noise and having the longer time preference. And that goes for everybody, not just you and me, but for pension funds itself. Okay, on to ZPay Live or zpay.live. I can't pronounce his name. Iefan, Iefan on Nostr says zpay.live is shifting its focus to the value for value model. Paywalls will remain an option, but we will prioritize upcoming value for value features. So here's what you can expect. A crowd wall. And that means that when a target is reached, the content unlocks for everyone. Right? So let's say I put up I write a article about Forest Walker, which I'm actually working on. And if you haven't heard Forest Walker before, it's in the archive somewhere. You know, just search. If your podcast app has a search function, type in Forest Walker for the Bitcoin and podcast. You'll probably find it, listen to it. But I've been working on an article for way longer than I should be, and I want to release it, and I want to put it on Bitcoin Magazine or something like that, or someplace else. And I say, look, you can't read it unless you pay me, right? I put a paywall in front of it. But instead of doing that, let's say that I go, okay, there's a paywall, but that paywall will open up for everybody on the planet if I get, 150,000 Satoshis. So let's say that 10 people put in, what would that be, like 15,000 Satoshis a piece, or 100 people put in like 1.5, 1,500 Satoshis. All of a sudden, that wall falls down, not just for those people because they get to read it instantly once they pay that paywall, but the addition keeps stacking onto each other until it hits 150,000 total, and then the paywall for everybody in the world just drops. I love the idea. I think it's great. Another thing to expect from zpay.live is value for value paywalls, a flexible price. Buyers of an article, like let's say I put out the Forest Walker, those buyers of that article can choose their own price, and creators can set limits if they want. and that's shipping in a few days, whereas CrowdWall is, well, they just say it's in progress. Third, Blossom built-in storage and multiple file/folder upload option is also coming soon. Do you have any further suggestions? Well, if you do, direct that to iefan@nostrplebs.com, iefan@nostrplebs.com. That's his, that's a way to get to his Nostr handle because I don't want to read his npub. It's just whatever. ZPay is awesome. I've played with it a couple of times. It's a great way to put just a straight up paywall in front of your content if you want to do that. What's great about this is that even these guys are looking at Adam Curry's value for value model. This is the model that I have been using ever since I started this podcast and actually got enough incoming liquidity on my Lightning node to make it work. I don't take advertisements. And I think a lot of it is because I don't put myself out there enough to try to get the advertisements. Sometimes that I do, every once in a while that I do, they don't want to do it. And I think it's because my show is just too small. It's just not worth it to them. So I have to depend on people like you who say, I want and enjoy what it is that you do. I like understanding what the hell happened to Bitcoin today. I like the way that you present it. I like the way all this blah, 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 blah. I like it. So you guys throw me donations. You stream me Satoshis. You give me value. Your value for your perceived value to you of what this podcast is actually worth to you. That's what that is. That's what value for value is. If you can't, like I always say, hey, man, if you can't afford any Satoshis or you don't have them or you don't want to give them away, then spread the show. Give me a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. I mean, promote the show. Help me do like that. That's value to me. I'm one dude. I don't have an office. I don't have a back office. I don't have like 5 people working for me. I don't have any editors or writers or, like the guy that does the editing. You know who that is? Me. I'm the one that does the editing for the show. It's me. It's all me, baby. And without value for value, I would literally get nothing for this show. You guys have stepped up a lot. You guys really have. You stepped up a lot. Every show I release, y'all stream me Satoshis and y'all give me boostograms. Sometimes they're larger, sometimes they're smaller. It doesn't matter. It's what does this show value for you? Figure that out in your own mind. I don't have a minimum value. I don't say, hey man, if you could just pop me $1 a day. Every once in a while I'll say that, but I don't really think about it that way because it's kind of dumb. It's like, wow, you only value your own content at $1 a day? The hell's wrong with you? Why should I give you $1? Hell, I'll give you 50 cents because clearly you think it's only worth $1. See how this works? That's why I ask you to donate to the show. But when you do donate what you think it's worth to you. That's how value for value works. That's what Adam Curry has been talking about for years. And it's amazing to see all of these people on Nostr start really looking at the value for value model, which means that the entire ecosystem of podcasting 2.0, which has always been value for value structured, has not only fully collided with Nostr, but we're starting to read each other's bodies. You could say that, yeah, we're having sex. Whatever perversion in your mind you've got to put up in front of yourself to understand what it is I'm trying to say, fine. I'm just saying that we've got these two worlds, they have collided, and now we're actually starting to release strands of DNA into the opposite bodies. And we don't know what the child of this is going to be, but I'll bet it's beautiful. I'll bet it's beautiful. I'll bet it's beautiful. Haven relay. It's a Haven relay. This is from No Bullshit Bitcoin, by the way. Haven relay version 1.0.0 has been released. Blossom Media and gift-wrapped DM support. Haven is a personal Nostr protocol relay for storing and backing up sensitive notes such as eCache, private chats, and drafts. It offers features like Web of Trust, inbox relay, cloud backups, Blaster, old note import, and an integrated Blossom Media server. Nice. It's sort of like an Swiss Army knife. Quote, We are YOLOing into version 1.0.0 because this is now the ultimate personal relay. What else could you need? Announced UTXO. So here are the features. It's a private relay. Only the owner can access this relay. It's used for drafts, eCache, and private notes, protected by auth. AUTH. It's a chat relay, and this is used for DMs to the owner, accessible only by trusted contacts, protected by auth, and accepts only encrypted DMs and group chat kind of events. Inbox relay. You can send zaps, reactions, and replies here when tagging the owner. It pulls notes from other relays, but only accepts notes where the owner is tagged. Oh, that's interesting. Outbox relay. The owner's public notes reside here. All notes sent here are shared with other relays. Only the owner can send, but anyone can read. Then there's the Blossom Media Server. This hosts images and videos. The owner can upload and get shareable links. Anyone can view the content. Web of Trust. Protection from DM and inbox spam via Web of Trust filter. Cloud backups. Notes are backed up in the cloud and can be restored if the relay is lost. And then there's Blaster. Notes sent to the outbox are also blasted to other relays. And then there's the import old notes. You can, in fact, import your old notes and notes you're tagged in from other relays. And then there's some other kinds of stuff in here. But that does it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe it. I had all that stuff to do. I've come in under the hour. I feel like a king of the world, man. King of the world. Not really. It's just that if I don't get my ass up and out of this chair inside of 10 minutes with all the rest of the post-processing that I got to do for the show, I'm going to be in some serious trouble. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I will see you on the other side.
This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.